Hello, my name is Brian Corliss, introducing you again to the new science of the 21st century. In the first video, I described the very fundamental basis of which everything in the cosmos originates. This describes the origin of all the galaxies and all the matter that exists within the universe. In this new video, I'll now extend exactly the same model and the same principles and the same fundamentals to describe the smallest entities within our cosmos, and that is the element hydrogen. Hydrogen being the basic building block of all the matter. Unless we can fully understand hydrogen, we cannot then fully understand anything that may be derived from it. In extending this model, one is also able to gain a full understanding of the very basic phenomenon of magnetism and wave formation. Plasma has its origins from the vast expansions taking place at each singularity. Plasma is the something generated at each singularity and encapsulated within the dipole ethern. It starts off as a very large mass and gradually diminishes in volume and energy as it cools. As the something within the plasma expands, it eventually condenses into a very large number of small parcels, each encapsulated within its own spherical shell of ethern. It is the very large number of these small parcels of something encapsulated within their dipole ethern shell which become the hydrogen cloud resulting from the condensation of the plasma. It is these large clouds of hydrogen which are the basis for the formation of new galaxies. New stars are formed when the hydrogen loses most of its energy and begins to join together into larger masses of plain nothing, which becomes a gravitational focal point for the origin of new stars. Thus, star formation is a result of the condensation of cold hydrogen. The fundamental structure of the hydrogen atom within its own dimension is a spherical shell of denser ethern being neutral, but it is surrounded by a cloud of less dense ethern around its circumference. Each hydrogen atom may be considered as a very small particle of something encapsulated within its envelope of ethern. This is also embedded within the other dimension of nothing, being the gravitational energy. The two act in opposite directions to form an equilibrium, being the small parcel of energy which is hydrogen. This structure is, however, embedded within its two adjacent dimensions of nothing being compression and something being expansion. These ethern shells are really the structure or the solid mass which is the basis for all the matter we have in the cosmos. It is the skeleton or the backbone around which all matter is formed. We can envisage the hydrogen structure as it is embedded within its nothing entity or its nothing dimension, here as shown, the blue colour representing the nothing dimension and the browner colour being the ethern dimension. Within a three-dimensional structure, however, it is also combined with its something dimension, which is its property of expansion. And one may view the hydrogen atom as being a bridge or a point between the two major dimensions of something and nothing. We may zoom across these dimensions to show the hydrogen structure itself with its ethern shell as it interacts with either dimension, the blue being its gravitational realm or dimension and the yellow being its something dimension. We therefore may partly view the hydrogen as being a composite entity with a central nucleus comprising of a small packet of dense something energy surrounded by an etherne shell, which in itself is surrounded by a larger fog of etherne, again, which is surrounded again by the two dimensions of gravity and expansion. It is not, however, a static entity, and within its something dimension, the atom is capable of absorbing something from its environment in increasing orders of mass and density. As it absorbs more density, the shell is able to expand. In the oscillation process, as the energy is released from one atom, it is then absorbed by its adjacent atoms, and it is this continuing transformation of energy from one atom to another which provides the property of temperature. Temperature, therefore, is simply a result of dissonance, or the rate of exchange of energy from one atom to another. The fundamental basis for the property of magnetism can now be described. As the parcel of excess mass and energy is expelled from the atom, it is then embedded within the wider fog of etherne that surrounds it. The energy release begins to flow and form channels through the dipole shell and the dipole fog around the atom to be recycled again at the opposite polar axis. It is this process of flow of energy around the atom which produces the magnetic field which we can describe and measure. This flow also produces the property of spin, as the energy that is flowing from one pole to the other produces a small differential, and it is that differential from each pole which produces the movement or rotation of the shell. The oscillation and subsequent release of its excess max energy into the etherne shell also provides an explanation for the formation of waves. The expansion of the atom and its subsequent release of its mass energy and its oscillation is a continuing process, and the atom of hydrogen, and indeed all atoms, are in a continuing state of oscillation in response to the energy that is being absorbed from around it. The monoatomic hydrogen may not exist within the environment of planet Earth. It does, however, represent the majority of the hydrogen that is dispersed throughout the cosmos. It exists in a very low mass, low density and low energy environment, and is the substance forming most of the elemental mass within the interstellar and intergalactic spaces. The fundamental structure of the atom which I've just described can be applied to every element and every isotope within the periodic table. It also extends to the explanation for all the properties of atoms, including isotope decay. It can also be applied to the fundamental models for chemistry and all the chemical reaction. It is indeed a universal theory which I believe will become the new science of the 21st century. Thank you. Conventional wisdom and the standard model describes light as consisting of massless particles travelling at enormous speeds through empty space. If I retranslate that into simple plain English, it would read nothing travelling at great speeds through nothing. Such a proposition is not only impossible but completely absurd, unless the mass which produces the energy we call light exists in another dimension which we cannot see or detect. I rest my case.